What is nitric oxide? Nitric oxide is an air pollutant, lung irritant, and overall toxic gas that is a byproduct of many industrial processes and is one of the hazardous components of acid rain. This noxious gas has also been implicated as an offending substance related to chemical burns. So what is this gas doing in the human body? And further, why is it produced by the human body? In 1977, it was discovered that nitric oxide was involved with signaling the artery wall to relax, thereby lowering blood pressure in the system. It took 10 more years before it was discovered to be the molecule responsible for regulating blood pressure and preventing atherosclerosis plaque in the artery wall. Because cardiovascular disease was then, and is now, the leading cause of death, this discovery is considered today to be the most important discovery in history, pertaining to the cause and prevention of heart attack and stroke. Indeed, in 1992, nitric oxide was hailed as Molecule of the Year, and in 1998, the Nobel Prize was awarded to the 3 scientists responsible for its discovery. Over 500,000 people will die in the U.S. this year due to heart attack or stroke, and the primary risk factor for those as young as 40 years of age is the inability to produce adequate nitric oxide levels. Since the discovery of nitric oxide, there has been a variable avalanche of research published in the medical literature. Over 130,000 studies to date. 90% of those have been published since the 1998 Nobel Prize was awarded. Despite this overwhelming positive information, the general public is still almost completely unaware of the critical role nitric oxide plays in the prevention of disease. More recently, scientists have discovered nitric oxide to be responsible for the healthy functioning of the brain, kidneys, liver, intestines, peripheral nerves, and the immune system. Nitric oxide is involved in the proper function of virtually every organ in the human body, and consequently, many researchers often refer to degenerative diseases of aging as diseases of nitric oxide decline. How is nitric oxide produced? There are 3 enzymes used in the human body to produce nitric oxide. The precursors to its production come from organic nitrates and nitrates in leafy green plants, such as kale, spinach, Swiss chard, etc. The first and most abundant source of nitric oxide comes from the enzyme known as ENOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase. This enzyme is produced by endothelium to produce large quantities of nitric oxide, which thereby relaxes the artery wall and lowers blood pressure in the cardiovascular system. The endothelium is a single-cell thick lining that coats the internal artery wall. The adult human body has roughly 60,000 miles of blood vessels coursing through it, and aside from veins and capillaries, the arteries comprise almost a third of that distance. So if you were to remove the single-cell thick endothelium and spread it out, it would cover a standard soccer field, making the endothelium the largest organ in the human body. This huge organ, the endothelium, produces massive quantities of nitric oxide to regulate blood pressure within the arteries, which is an effect that is impossible to exaggerate with regard to importance for 2 reasons. 1. High blood pressure is the primary cause of damage to the internal artery wall, and it is this damage that leads to a cascade of events which culminates in the formation of plaque, atherosclerosis, along the artery wall. This further raises pressure within the artery wall, creates more damage to the artery, and leads to further plaque. This inevitably leads to a heart attack or stroke, the leading cause of death. And 2. Relaxation of the artery allows for maximum blood perfusion into all regions of the body. Since no cells can live without a blood supply, adequate blood perfusion is essential to the life and health of all cells, tissues, and organs. The second most abundant source of nitric oxide comes from the nervous system, which is comprised of our brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. The enzyme involved is called NNOS, neuronal nitric oxide synthase. The brain acts as the master controller of every aspect of life and healthy function, right down to the cellular level. The accuracy of this control is dependent upon proper signaling between nerve cells, called neurons, which results in proper balance of neurotransmitters. This is crucial due to the fact that the nervous system uses nitric oxide to ensure proper function of neurotransmitters to coordinate and control every function within the human body. This becomes doubly important to those individuals taking prescription drugs that alter the delicate balance of these neurotransmitters, such as Prozac, Xanax, Elavil, Prestige, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, etc. This is because neurons cannot respond appropriately to increases in neurotransmitters if nitric oxide production is compromised. This may lead to increased dosages of these drugs, and this in turn may lead to serious side effects that are often life-threatening. Simply put, the drugs work better when the neurons are healthier and more sensitive to signaling, and this requires adequate production of nitric oxide by the neurons. The third enzyme used in the process of nitric oxide production is INOS, inducible nitric oxide synthase, and it is used by the immune system to destroy invading pathogens such as bacteria and viruses. INOS used by the immune system leads to the only pro-inflammatory effect of nitric oxide, as it is used to destroy these invaders. This is important in the prevention of cancer, since the immune system must recognize and destroy mutated cells before they become cancerous. Trouble arises when the immune system accidentally mistakes our own normal cells for foreign invaders and attacks them as such. This is known as autoimmunity, when the immune system attacks and destroys normally healthy tissue. Rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, type 1 diabetes, ulcerative colitis, psoriasis, and many other common ailments are all considered autoimmune. Many individuals with autoimmune conditions will not benefit from nitric oxide supplements due to an overactive production of INOS, which can be enhanced by any substance which drives the production of nitric oxide in general. For those, caution is recommended. However, there have been hundreds of patients with autoimmune disorders who have benefited greatly from nitric oxide supplements in a clinical setting. To summarize, the production of nitric oxide by the lining of the arteries and by the nervous system results in anti-inflammatory protection of the heart, arteries, brain, nerves, and skin, and slows the effects of aging. Since circulation and blood perfusion is required for the survival of all living cells within the body, the ability to produce nitric oxide in the artery wall is essential to the survival of the cells, and therefore the whole body. It is the reduced ability of the endothelium to produce nitric oxide that leads to aging in general, and many of the degenerative diseases associated with aging, such as arthritis, wrinkling of the skin, graying of the hair, loss of flexibility, erectile dysfunction, reflux, constipation, and others. The production of nitric oxide by the brain is crucial to properly balance neurotransmitters and to ensure proper signaling from the brain to the rest of the body. When there is not enough nNOS-produced nitric oxide in the brain, there is often an increase in INOS by immune cells in the brain, which creates inflammation and overexcitation in neurons, brain cells, and this leads to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease and senile dementia. How do we sustain nitric oxide production? Our ability to produce and sustain nitric oxide peaks at approximately 25 years of age, and afterward, our levels begin to decline slowly. The speed of decline accelerates dramatically at 40 years of age, which is why so many people feel that after 40, everything falls apart. Indeed, many nitric oxide researchers now refer to degenerative diseases of aging as diseases of nitric oxide decline. This has been borne out in the medical literature as well. Individuals with higher nitric oxide production by the endothelium and nervous system live longer and have drastically reduced incidence of disease, and maybe more importantly, report much higher quality of life. It may come as no surprise that our ability to sustain nitric oxide production comes from dietary and lifestyle factors primarily, although genetics plays a role as well. A diet that is plant-based and is comprised of plenty of leafy green vegetables, berries, apples, black and green tea, cocoa, beets, and pomegranate will yield the best precursors for nitric oxide production in the arteries and brain. Diets heavy in saturated fats from animals and too much animal protein will result in compromised production of nitric oxide. Extra virgin olive oil consumption has also been shown to improve nitric oxide production, which is a primary reason for the health benefits of the Mediterranean diet. Exercise also plays a key role in healthy nitric oxide balance. Taking a brisk walk for at least 30 minutes per day, 5 days per week, is essential to brain and artery nitric oxide production and has been shown to be as effective as Zoloft for the treatment of mild depression. Also, short-term, high-intensity training has been shown to improve nitric oxide balance, and this type of exercise may only take 5 to 10 minutes depending on individual fitness level. Relaxation techniques and therapies such as meditation, massage, yoga, tai chi, sauna, acupuncture, and even lots of laughter have all been proven to improve nitric oxide levels.